At XRP Vegas, we got confirmation from Ripple's CTO on exactly what they are doing with XRP. And this is actually very significant, so you have to listen. But first, let's go back to June of 2017. This is now almost 8 years old when they finally announced the Internet of Value. Now, they were talking about the Internet of Value before this article got released, but this was clear confirmation of what exactly Ripple was building with XRP. Now, for those that actually don't know, when we think about what the Internet of Value actually is, basically it is changing the way value is exchanged or moved, making it as quick as how information is moved today. Now, even within this, they do talk about the $180 trillion worth of cross-border payments, which is now like well over 200 plus trillion, and how slow, expensive, and even unreliable these payments actually are. With the Internet of Value, all of this changes. Now, the way that this would really kind of work is everything would basically be on chain, and it will all be through blockchain, right? Blockchain will be the enabler of all of this. And during this time, the big thing to focus on was obviously XRP, because they were telling us that XRP would be the bridge currency in this Internet of Value world. Today, obviously, things are still very similar to this, but we now have stablecoins and CBDCs are being talked about, and tokenized things of value are rising. But still, the underlying use case for XRP remains unchanged. The bridge currency aspect around XRP is still very significant even today. And in fact, all of these things like stablecoins, CBDCs, or tokenized things of value reinforce the XRP use case. Now, outside of this, talking more so about XRP, the digital asset for real world utility, right? We have the stats here. We have the transactions. We have the wallets. We have everything around XRP outlined on Ripple's website. XRP enables businesses and financial institutions to drive their blockchain-based applications at scale. Basically, what they're telling us is that XRP and the underlying ledger are powering, key aspects around the Internet of Value. It's because it's proven technology. It's trusted technology as well. You can see the benefits and the differences between, everything between Ripple, XRP, and XRPL. They describe all of this. On top of that, we have more about what Ripple is doing with XRP, including using XRP for cross-border payments. Financial institutions can bridge currencies and ensure payments are sent and received in local currency on either side of a transaction in as little as 3 seconds. You also have the digital asset custody side of things, and then the holders of XRP as well. So at the end of the day, listen, the Internet of Value is still a thing. In fact, we're in the beginning stages of it. XRP is going to be very valuable. XRP is a big piece of this. The reason why I say that is because Ripple is also a very big piece of this, and they utilize XRP and the XRPL in significant ways. Now let's talk a little bit about what we have been hearing for the last few months, which let's just go back to May 6th, because Black Swan Capitalist put out a great post talking about how central banks, governments, and global financial institutions just proposed a multi-currency payment system for a multipolar world. At the center of it all is a neutral reserve bridge asset connecting value across these systems. This is the confirmation, and the asset is XRP. Now, we don't know if it is XRP, obviously, but when we think about what's really going on here, a multipolar world of finance has been talked about for quite some time. And in fact, a lot of the BRICS nations have been pushing towards this. If we do start to see that become a reality, then XRP and its neutral reserve bridge aspect becomes very, very valuable, because again, there's not a lot like XRP in the space. XRP has extremely strong liquidity tied to it. On top of that, that bridge currency aspect is a game changer. And the fact that XRP is connected to the DEX, it's tapped into Ripple payments as well. And it also has the first ever DEX itself in this space ever created, which means that it's trusted. It's been tested. It's been tested by big central banks. It's been tested by the Bank of England in POC trials. All of this is ammunition, basically, right? It allows Ripple, and even XRP to be looked at through a lens from any institutional player, any government, player, central banks, anyone. And they could see the test. They could see the information. They could see the facts, right? Which is the fact that XRP is extremely efficient as a neutral reserve bridge asset. And on top of that, if they wanted to utilize Ripple outside of XRP with, the XRP ledger being tapped in, because again, if we go back to this over here, we do have the differences. However, the thing here is that, their solutions utilize XRP and the XRPL and even ROUSD, which is also, tapped in with the XRP ledger. But the fact is, if any big player wants to use XRP or XRPL outside of Ripple, they can. But they can't actually utilize Ripple outside of XRP and the XRPL unless they're just utilizing like ROUSD on the Ethereum network, for an example, which we already know is inefficient. So again, this is why it's very important to focus on the facts. The facts are that if all of these institutional players that are tapped into Ripple, right, want to utilize Ripple payments or any sort of Ripple product, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to be utilizing XRP and the XRPL. But also, when we think about this multipolar world becoming a reality, I mainly look at stablecoins. And we already know a ton of stablecoins are launching on the XRP ledger this year. And that's what also brings me over here to this post from Smoke Dog, because again, we're on the same path of the Internet of Value, even with stablecoin initiatives. We have here that the XRP ledger promises to be a cornerstone of the Internet of Value. Ripple is not only a cryptocurrency. That was the most boring part. It actually models the entire financial ecosystem. This is documented. And we actually have here in this document, let's zoom in. We have, by providing interoperability, seamless circulation, and payment automation or straight-through processing, the XRP ledger promises to be the cornerstone of the Internet of Value. As one informant put it, Ripple is not only a cryptocurrency to me, that was the most boring part of it. It actually models the entire financial ecosystem. Now, what's important about this is, let's go back to XRP Vegas, because we did hear a few things at this event. Number one, from Brad Garlinghouse. Big shout to Edward Farina for this. Brad Garlinghouse drops a bombshell at the XRP Ledger Las Vegas, rewriting the entire banking system, and we underestimate how big that change is. Check this out.
I will say some, even the XRP family, it's like, look, the Bitcoin community is not our enemy. They really are not. If they do well, we're going to do well. We might do better. It's just like, it's not a zero-sum game. And I think the one thing I learned, I was in Silicon Valley for 24 years. The one thing you learn is tech is not a zero-sum game. We're going to grow the pie. And David Schwartz was up here yesterday talking about rewiring the entire banking system and what this looks like maybe in 10 years or 20 years. We underestimate how big that change is and how profound it is. And we get there by being collaborative and working together, not against each other. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Looking forward, and I found really interesting just in how many ways and how many different ways you're working sort of across the landscape. Certainly, you look at the Hidden Road transaction. I mean, frankly, just you're kind of unshackled now. Our conversations now are more about what's going to happen than what has happened. Maybe though you can talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, I mean, listen, when we think about what Ripple is actually doing here, they are changing the banking sector, changing finance as a whole. Now, what did we hear from Ripple CTO David Schwartz? Well, over here we heard from Vincent Scott. He said that he asked Ripple's David Schwartz if Ripple built a financial system wherein a unit of account transitional on a decentralized ledger through the means of exchange, XRP, is either a money processor or gas to convert. He said yes. Big shout to Bank XRP for this, as well as Vincent Scott for actually asking David Schwartz this question. But here we actually have from Vincent on exactly what he asked and what he was told.
So I just met David Schwartz. I didn't want to stick a camera in his face. I just asked him my question. Is what Ripple built a financial system wherein a unit of account transition of a decentralized ledger through the means of exchange, XRP, is either money processor or gas to convert? He said, yes, you can consider those things a financial system. Job done. So
now, Bank XRP said that he couldn't confirm this, but we did get confirmation. We have here confirmed. Now, number one, Vincent Scott was getting a ton of hate. Everyone was calling him a liar. Everyone was saying, take it with a grain of salt. You can't trust him, this, that, whatever. And he did tag David Schwartz on X, and he did get the response. Here we have, I did say that you could consider the XRP ledger together with other things Ripple has built to be a financial system. I hope over the next few years, it can provide a significant fraction of the financial services that people need every day, from payments to investments to loans. This is a huge statement, because what we are seeing confirmed here from Ripple CTO is that they created a new financial system with the XRP ledger and XRP at the heart of it. This takes me back to the Internet of Value. It also takes me back to the original view of the cross-border payment section that they had on their website, where XRP was at the center point of it. And even today, they still are putting that at the center by saying cross-border payments. By using XRP, any financial institution can bridge currencies on either side. But it didn't just stop at this post. David was also asked another question, and the question was, so really, it's the assets on its ledger we should be looking at more so than just XRP. I'm starting to lose my mind a bit. We have the XRP ledger is more than just XRP. There are stablecoins. There will be tokenized real world assets, loans of all kinds of things. A DEX doesn't work with just one asset, but XRP has a privileged place on the XRP ledger. It's the only asset that any account can receive. It's the only asset without a counterparty. Pathfinding checks for XRP liquidity first. Auto bridging makes offers to and from XRP more likely to be taken. It's the only asset you can pay transaction fees with. The question to ponder is how much value XRP ledger can generate, and to what extent that can turn into XRP value. That's very hard to do though. For example, it's very hard to know how much of XRP's value today comes from the XRP ledger's value. And yeah, it is. But one thing that is very clear to me is that if we see this new financial system become a reality with Ripple and XRP and the XRPL, and we also have to think about stablecoins, tokenized things of value, all of these things living on the DEX, being traded 24/7, 365. Think about how much demand that creates for the network, which, it creates for XRP, because XRP is the gas token. With the auto bridging mechanism, and with, XRP liquidity being checked first, that means that XRP becomes very valuable through demand. If the demand is high enough, XRP's value will increase, by multiples. I don't want to give, an amount because we don't know yet, but this is telling us that there is a much bigger plan behind XRP and the XRPL, and Ripple did create a new financial system with it. This is something that we have talked about for years, and we just got confirmation of this. I have to again give a big shout out to Vincent Scott for this, because this is a huge confirmation, number one. But number two, we see this completely broken down from David, which really, I would say, shines a light on just how big this could be. Today, we don't know what the real value of these projects actually are, because we're still tied back to Bitcoin and the hype and speculation side of things. But eventually we will get to the utility, value driver side of this market, and we will be in a utility run instead of a hype and speculative 4-year cycle run that's tied back to liquidity as well. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely have a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.